Hello, adventurers. My guest today is Jeff D. He is a legendary artist and equally legendary game designer. You know his work from AD&D, and also from games such as the classic Villains and Vigilantes. His games include Cave Master, Quicksilver, and Twerps. He now publishes through Monkey House Games and Uni Games. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Mike.
I'm
Hi, everybody.
pretending it's a show. Like,
It could be a show at some point.
yeah, for
By
sure.
the time there are people watching it right now,
Jeff,
years in the future, for whom it's a show already.
I I like that you went to like the Planet of the Apes finding the there were the humans at these shows.
That's right. You're on these little silvery discs that you spin on a table. Oh, that's not Planet of the Apes. That's oh gosh,
Time machine.
Time Machine.
Yeah, that was the class. Oh, so this
L Time Machine.
is sign, but you're side, but this you're one of the people that I know will appreciate this. So here in Portland, there is a wonderful video store that's the
Huh?
equivalent of some of the better ones in Austin, and they also have a prop museum. And first day I went
Oh,
there, have you played the game? I think you and I have played it. If you could have any prop from film, what would be the prop you wanted?
I have not played this game.
Okay, my answer is the little time machine that he puts
Oh,
on the desk.
yeah,
It's
yeah. That he
at
puts like
that
a cigarette
store.
in
It's
or a
at that
cigar.
store.
How
In
much?
it's on display, but it's
Oh.
accessible enough that went in there with one of those lidar mappers. I could like make my own. It's close enough to touch. It's amazing.
Uh-huh.
All right. Anyway, so I've asked.
Wait, we don't get to play the game now?
Oh yeah.
You brought up the game.
What's your answer?
It probably would be different at a different time, but I've just seen the film recently. So Superman's hypno glasses.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I need to have those.
I mean, if I had a friend that had that, I would want maybe one of Lex's wigs.
It wouldn't be hard to convince someone that they were the ones.
Yeah,
So
totally.
just wave a normal set of glasses at them and say, "You'll never believe where these are from."
A little harder to make to pass off something as the tiny time machine.
Yes, that would take some.
But
I can't believe that was never a model kit, though. You
right.
know,
And with
wouldn't that have been a cool
models,
model kit to have?
you could
It
make it
should come with a cigar you could
oh,
break and put in the chair.
it's so good. It's on a separate sprue, right? You got a separate
Yeah.
in it. Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
no, a real cigar.
this bridges. Well, the reason I said that is because it bridges to our topic of miniatures. See,
It's because it's little.
I was looking for a way back in.
That's
So
not really miniature enough, though, I'm afraid.
I'm gonna tell tales out of school, and I'm going to admit
That,
that
yeah,
Jeff.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you
Yeah,
to reference the much more obscure
yeah.
H.G. Wells story, which is the scale machine,
I don't think I've read it.
where he sits in his chair and he gets tiny. He gets as
Well,
tiny as he wants.
you've written a
I just made that up.
well, you've written a tiny people game, right?
I worked on the Tiny People game. That could come up during the course of this. There was a big miniatures issue with that.
Oh yeah. All right. So the topic is,
Yes.
and the spoiler is secret. Jeff and I are not young, so I hope you.
Ha.
So point being, um,
I'm actually much older than I look, except for my hypno glasses.
and I'm slightly younger than I look, uh, which is great for Santa season and not terrific for dating, but whatever. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so the first thing I ever wrote professionally, well, not one of the first was a thing for Dragon Magazine where I called the evocative blob, where it was op-ed about my first exposure to the game industry. And my first exposure was my dad brought home a Ralpartha orc. It's
Mm,
barely a miniature. Like some of
yeah.
those early castings were blobs that were kind of what they were supposed to be.
Do
But
you remember Dragon Tooth miniatures?
yes, sir, I do.
They were the blobs. I mean, those things appear to have been sculpted with no tools except maybe a toothpick out of, I don't know, modeling clay, and then they somehow cast them and made minis.
So all of this goes back, like, boy, if you go back to Little Wars, right? There's people have been using miniatures for various kinds of role
Mm,
playing, even
mm,
before there was role playing.
mm.
I know Brian and I, our first case was we used those little plastic knights that were like
Sure, right.
$2 a bag, and they came in blue and red
250 of them for $5 from an ad in the back comic books.
for a nickel. Yeah,
Oh, a nickel? Okay, I forget what it was.
but we
There was a five in there somewhere.
right. Um, so we used chainmail, and we used the first copy of D&D.
Oh my.
It was the little half-size book.
Uh-huh.
Only an upgrade did you had to have chainmail. It didn't even have its own combat system. So the very first D&D was like a fantasy appendix for chainmail, and we used little plastic figures, little tiny little toys.
Mhm.
So I know at your table that you're fond of proxies. I have certainly played at your table with all kinds of things that weren't necessarily properly sculpted and molded, you know,
Yeah.
mini such.
I don't know if I'm fond of proxies, but agonizing over miniatures perfection isn't something I do. And if I may, jump in and compare, my proto D&D
Yeah,
schlong
yeah,
with yours.
please.
My eldest brothers we had in our basement, um, there's a concrete floor with a great big carpet loose rolled out on that floor, and they would put boxes and things underneath the carpet to create hills. And then the combat system was marbles that
Oh,
you could
cool.
would toss from one unit of your figures to try to knock down units of the other guy's figures. And those were again like plastic army men
Yeah.
of various kinds. I don't recall there being much concern about whether they were all from the same time period or anything.
What was the Milton Bradley game? Was it Castles and Catapults? That was
Could
little.
it? That sounds right.
There was a brief shining period where you could go
Yeah,
to a toy store and you could get little castles, and you played basically
yeah,
that. You'd hurl ammunition and just knock over your
yeah.
opponent, usually probably a brother. You'd knock over whatever their fortress happened to be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And speaking of H.G. Wells, didn't he write Little Wars? Is that why you brought him up?
Potentially. I mean, I do know that Saruman played it
Right.
because he was like maybe
Not with Wells, though.
I don't know. He's too as far back as he went. Wells was
Yeah,
about 60 years before that, right?
probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
because Wells was what, the 20s?
Wells is Saruman. What's his name? The British actor's name that
I'm
I'm
forgetting
in
too.
trouble for. Now I'm in trouble for forgetting. Shoot. Anyway,
The only British actor I can remember right now is Matt Berry.
that's
And
not him.
putting Matt Berry in the place of the other actors' roles,
Yeah, yeah,
I'd see every one of those movies, but
sure.
be very different. Yeah, yeah. So I don't think
We must join with Sauron.
Father. Yeah. um. So we'll look it up. I have to know if he could have played with H.G. Wells.
Is there some rule about not completely derailing your show onto weird
No,
tangents? Because I'm not I'm not following that rule. If there's such a rule.
that's how my brain works anyway. But so it's
I'm
good,
I'm
man.
standing on a carpeted hill throwing marbles to see if I can knock down your show.
Well, okay. So my first experience with what modern gamers would call minis would
Yeah,
be that little Relpartha orc. Now that led
right.
to my dad and my mom putting together a Lord of the Rings weekend war game that
Hmm.
filled three long tables. They had all their artist friends make the locations. I was just a kid, but it's the kind of
Damn.
crap I did as an adult. What was your first encounter with actual minis?
Oh gosh. Well, my dad and my older brothers, apart from the, plastic soldiers in the basement thing,
Right.
um, were into Avalon Hill, cardboard fold out hex grid war games
Yep.
with little square counters. And the best you'd get ever was maybe on those little counters would be silhouettes of guys
Yeah.
on in some of their games, but generally not that. It was like uh symbols for different kinds of military units drawn from the actual military that I didn't even know what they meant. Um, so possibly my first encounter was because we lived just across the border from uh, Lake Geneva in Illinois, and we went to an early Gen Con.
Yeah.
And that's probably the first time that I saw miniatures. And, to me, it wasn't my first reaction wasn't, oh, those are going to be great for gaming, but just like, wow, cool little guys.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, 13, 14. We could do the math, but I was pretty young, still in
Yeah.
high school at most.
So that's kind of how my youngest Crow deals with it. She
Yeah.
does play Warhammer 40,000, but mostly she just loves the figures and painting them. She
Yeah.
has a rattling collection, and it's not really, I don't think she views them as these are the playing pieces, these are the games. It's just she plays games with Brian because Brian plays. But
Uh-huh.
the passion for her is obviously these are really neat things.
And I mentioned Dragon Tooth.
Mhm.
I really miss their miniatures, even though they were crude as all get out, but very evocative. And they made, as far as I can recall, the first like kit where you made a dragon. We had one of those
It was in a box,
back
right?
in the day. I guess,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I
It
think
was just massive, and you're using um, epoxy to glue the things together, and it was so massive
yeah.
that the wings were really threatening to fall off at any moment just
Well,
due to
and
their
we
sheer
we
weight.
didn't have like pin vices and like the kind of
No,
standard idea of pinning
no,
things, and
yeah,
glue technology has come light years. It
yeah.
was the epoxy that would yellow in like three and a half days.
Oh, you know what? I do have an earlier memory of miniatures, and
Yeah.
it's not role-playing related. It's Airfix. There was a hobby shop in the next town over from where I grew up that had like a pretty full line of little plastic Airfix miniatures that I if there's a way to paint those things without the paint flaking off, I never discovered it. Um, had a crap ton of those. Had a little astronaut set. The backpacks would snap into a pin in the back of the astronaut's body and stuff. And one of them came with a little lunar rover and things. Those were awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
there's still around some of them.
and I can't remember if we ever used those for gaming. I don't think so.
Aren't they slightly out of scale with heroic scale?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They're much more like model railroad Asia
They're
scale.
like, but O scale, because HO,
Right.
depending on exactly where you're at, can kind
Yeah.
of equate. Yeah, O scale is the big chunky trains. Dad
It's
was,
not that. It's definitely not that.
yeah, Dad did the model railroading thing, so he had HO, he had O, but then and narrow scale was the one he had the one under that micro
Yeah.
scale. He had one that fit in a
Yeah.
shoebox. So that
Wow.
cigar box was an entire layout, which is amazing.
And can we count like posable action figures, like your Major Matt Masons and things?
If you're using them to play games, yeah, of course.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
I mean, FOSSA tried that. They tried getting little posable figures, but
Yeah.
they were not on the GI Joe scale. They weren't three and a halfs. They were mid scale, which is why they failed. They were 6 inches.
Yeah.
And lots of the idea was, well, if you use an action figure and you give him accessories, could kit out your Shadowrun character like your character's kitted out. And
Right.
neat idea. And then they had a rules set for using them kind of on your couch. And
Wow. I missed that entirely,
yeah,
but did not. Oops.
it didn't do well.
Oh, too bad.
They were pretty.
I can't remember like the transition in my life from to actually using miniatures on the tabletop. I mean, it's not a memory that stands out. I know I eventually wound up with them, and like most gamers, I've accumulated a vast number of them over time, though I've also lost a bunch over time. I don't have any of my old Dragon Tooth stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I had to divest of
and
at
you know,
least.
no idea where they went, except that I did like kind of abandon the hobby for a 10-year period when I thought I was going to be breaking into computer games permanently. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I my memory of early days, and this was not everybody, but a lot of people, was you would gradually get your PCs. Like everybody try to find your dwarf,
yeah,
whatever. And
yeah,
then what would be on the table was kind of what you end up doing half the time. You're like, well, that's kind of beholder shaped. It's a ping pong ball. I'll put it on a little stand and we good. That's a beholder. And back in the day, people would have one or two monsters, but they were rare enough that people didn't even bother to try to get. These days, a lot of gamers will try to get an assembly of standard stuff.
yeah,
When you really think about it, even getting, I've done this math, trying to get a standard set, especially for fantasy gaming, oh my God, it's so many. But so you generally, you've had most of your gaming career, you've used minis.
yeah. I think yeah, that's what I recollect. But again, starting from not very many and working my way up. Um, um, Fragment of a memory in my brain that I'm not even sure what it was, but yeah. Um,
Were
and
there
now, I've now gone to the point of having like uh, you know, those little hardware store boxes of little plastic trays that are supposed to be for nuts and screws,
yeah.
and I keep minis in there, and I try to maintain some kind of organization so I can find what I need, and that very rapidly gets destroyed as I use things and then either don't put them back right away so I forget where I got them from, or do put them back and I put them back wrong. So,
Where did the
you know,
Barghast go again?
like 5 years ago, I had everything out on my table all at once, and I sorted it into types so I could have that organization. It's deteriorating. I'll show you right now. I'm at my gaming table at my GM spot. This is the tray right here, full of the minis actively in use in all my ongoing campaigns. So actually, that's not even true because some of those campaigns have ended. But here is a vehicle from I think the Mantis or Black Mantis from DC Comics
I
that
love.
makes a fantastic, Martian tripod.
Yeah,
Um, which it was my player's vehicle in a recent campaign.
how to make a
But
really good enemy robot for nuked. I got to go find those.
I got D&D plastic minis in here, and I got here's a here's a rubber octopus in there, and
Hard to beat the
um,
rubber octopus.
I had a guy who was a blob, and I needed a blob. This is like a 3D printed blob thing I ordered online and never got around to painting. Um, and there's metal stuff and kit bash stuff. The menagerie.
So for about a year, I used Lego. I
Yeah, I strongly considered that.
had a
Got a
pretty
big
big. It
got a
was
big set.
expensive and hard to get. But
Yeah.
the time, the
And
like,
now that the latest news is that they're going out of business or in danger of going out of business. You
really,
didn't hear this? Yeah. That
huh,
like the yeah.
I did not. I have friends that work there. That would be bad.
Yeah.
I also love the Lego. Yeah, we at the time, the resale shops had become big. So I was able to
Hmm.
go in, but I have to devote hours to picking through the loose stuff to get like the
Yeah.
bits and bobs I wanted.
Yeah.
But I had a whole kit so you could sit down and like make exactly your PC.
Yeah.
And there was enough for the Lord of the Rings sets that you could make a pretty respectable monster crew. You could do
Hmm.
wolves and ogres, and yeah, it was good. Expensive though.
Are you
Uh,
talking about those like Lego stores they had in malls for a while?
no, no, no. These are third
Because
party. It would be like
oh,
Brickmania or
because they
whatever.
got into that business themselves, and there was like a little rotating kiosk with drawers. Like here's all the heads that you could pick from. Here's all the headgear you could pick from, and
And
the hair's
there
hair
was
bits and the
there was
weapons. And
there was the one specifically the table to make you, which was like to do like
yeah,
parties or like a lot of people were doing them for weddings. They would do
wow,
them for like their
sure.
bride.
From the you put that on the cake then.
Yeah. And they have the pick a brick walls. And I know you guys have one of those, and there's one out here in Portland. But
Yeah.
these were like brick, brick, may not brick lake because that's an online thing, but you'd bring in your stuff to sell. They'd give you an offer. And it was a resale damn near a pawn shop. But they'd also like run and this
Not
segment.
that different, really, if you think about it.
Well, I was about to say they'd run parties for kids. Oh God. Um, where they'd come in on the big
Oh, Mike.
uh, yeah, it's where I am. We're up in the hills. It's I'm higher than I'm used to relative to sea level. Never mind. Um, did you ever have villains and vigilantes miniatures done?
Yeah, yeah. Lance and Laser models. First, wait a minute. It was before Lance and Laser. There was somebody else, I think. Or was it that they had a different sculptor and just the style changed? Anyway, there were official licensed Living Legends miniatures. And then years later, when the legal problems came up, um, I went back to those guys and I said, "Well, Villains and Vigilantes is not much of a thing right now, but I've got a new superhero game out. You didn't mention in your opening, and that's all right. It didn't. It never made much of a splash. Called uh, Living Legends,
Hmm.
and I said, would you mind repackaging the Living Legends miniature or the Villains Vigilantes miniatures as Living Legends figures? Because the one thing that's not in dispute is Jack Herman and I still own our characters. And they said, yeah, if you'll do us a new card back. So I did him a new card back. And next year at Gen Con, we're having a meeting at a coffee shop somewhere. And Eric Morris, who ran Lance and Laser, goes that those new card backs like revitalized the sales of the lines. I'm wondering if you'd be interested in doing a new card back for our fantasy
Yeah,
figures. And I said, yeah, but I've got this idea for a game. Which is another thing you didn't mention, which is like long gone now, was War Chest, my miniatures game.
that's why I ran the list by you, Jeff.
Did we? Yeah, but it's not around anymore, and it was successful if in that it turned Lance and Laser models from a microscopic little miniatures company into just a very tiny little miniatures company.
Right,
That's how successful it was. Um, it was good for a while, but the idea was it was a response to Magic the Gathering.
right.
Um, the miniatures came with cards that told you what their stats were, and you'd point build an army on a chessboard and played it on a chessboard. And nowadays, all those minis from my collection of minis from that game are just folded in with the rest of my stuff and
Right.
will show up on the tabletop for role playing.
Yeah, we had a few, I think it was 6 SKUs for Whispering Vault.
Uh huh. Oh, did you?
Yeah, and
I never saw those. I
they're
wish you'd showed me.
they're hard to find now, but I think I
Uh-huh.
still have three of
Yeah.
them left.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
They were like the really weird monsters. They were pretty nice.
Cool. Love
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
monsters.
I also did the card back and it had the little logo on it, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Cool, man.
released. I forget who did them, but I think they released through Chessex because Chessex also did a pendant of the seal.
Mhm.
Okay, so cardboard. Like
Ah, sure.
I I might be misremembering this. Did you ever do a set of cut and play figures? I remember you doing one.
So, um, this is an unhappy tale.
Oh,
Um, I was living on Long Island, working as the art department at Fantasy Games Limited, the original publishers of Villains Vigilantes, and got contacted by Steve Jackson, who was doing the Cardboard Heroes, right?
yeah.
The original, like, big line of uh, cardboard stand-ups, and asked me to do um, characters, tiny little drawings of characters for superheroes because he was going to put out superhero cardboard heroes. What he did not tell me is that that line of cardboard heroes came out as champions cardboard heroes, and there's a bunch of my uh you know
Oh,
trademarked characters from Villains and Vigilantes in a champions cardboard hero set. That was not cool. It
and
was not
that's
cool.
also weird because GURPS Supers has been a competitor of Champions for years and years.
That didn't happen until later.
Oh, okay.
This was when there was just V and champions
Well, I
back
didn't
in the
mean to
day.
rub salt in the wound there. I
You didn't know.
so I
You
didn't
didn't know.
quite remember because I always recognize your art style.
Now, that I will say, Manda, my partner,
Yeah.
has done a bunch of Tecumel uh, cardboard stand-ups that we sell as PDFs through drive-through because we've got our another game you didn't mention, which I'm not surprised because I was twitchy about it for the last 3 years since we found out that M.A.R. Barker was a Nazi. Um, but I'm back into it now. I
Yeah.
just said, fuck it. Manda's greatest work was in the Tecumel arena, and we're not going to let that stuff go out of print. Um, so we're back doing Tecumel things. But the Tecumel creatures are weird,
Oh yeah.
and so she did a bunch of Tecumel themed cardboard heroes we sold as digitally that you can print out and make to play Tecmo stuff, and those are still out there.
I have a unique one-off print and play miniature of me that was
Yeah,
by Amanda. There was a
yeah,
period where I had a pink bunny suit that I would wear, and I wore it with a collar and a tie. And if someone
yeah,
I knew was really depressed, I'd put on
yeah.
the bunny suit and I would go to their house and I'd do the bunny dance.
Oh
And
boy,
Amanda did a mini of me in the bunny outfit.
this was a paper mini.
It's a little paper mini, and it's me. It's literally me in the suit with the collar and the little red tie. So yeah, I'm very, very happy and very proud of that thing.
Did you ever hear my Florence Henderson story?
There's a Florence Henderson story.
There's a Florence Henderson story that has to do with miniatures.
Good lord, it's on topic too.
And we were talking a while back about the Villains Vigilantes / Living Legends miniatures.
Yeah.
And at a Gen Con, I was at the Living Legends booth selling um, Living Legends, the Lance and Laser booth.
Mm.
All these L's, I got confused. The Lance and Laser booth with a nice display of buildings, like a downtown area, and stands and fully painted villains, living legends miniatures, and I was running little, stop by, you can like take a shot with pick a character and use them to blast another character and see what it's like, right? Well, we were right across the aisle from the booth that had Florence Henderson from from Lost in Space, right? I am thinking of the right actress, aren't I? Wasn't she the
uh,
the mom from Lost in Space?
no, I'm
Is
gonna.
that not Florence Henderson? I've amu- I've embarrassed myself.
No, we can find it. A TV, so it
It's a
wants to give
race.
me all the current actors. No, no, no. The real one. There we go. It was June Lockhart.
Oh, June Lock. Okay, it's a June Lockhart story then.
June Lockhart.
So
Same,
June Lockhart
same
was
thing.
at the booth. I think it's because that movie was coming out, the modern, and not the TV series. It's even
Right.
more modern. The movie. Uh, so she was this nice little old lady sitting in the booth across the aisle, right? So at the end of the con, I'm packing up my stuff, and I happen to glance, and there she is in her booth waving me over. I go, what? Okay, hi. And she goes, and she said, young man, because she's the little cute little old lady now, right? Young man, I just wanted to tell you how much I've enjoyed listening to your stories
Oh God.
as I was running Living Legend. And so I gave her a business card, and she gave it to her handler, and I thought, this is it. This is my moment. I'm going to head back from Gen Con and get a call from Hollywood. That never happened.
Yeah.
So
But still, you
June Lock June Lockhart.
yes,
Where's Florence Henderson from? That's that's
pretty
that's
much.
eight Brady Bunch. Okay.
And the
Sorry,
Flying
Florence Henderson and June Lockhart.
Dutchman.
I got you mixed up.
She's also supposed to be a mention big fun at cons and stuff.
Is
Um,
she?
yeah, yeah. She did Shakes the
Oh, and oh, I'm sorry. What triggered this memory? Sorry to interrupt you again. But not that sorry. You mentioned Amanda made the cardboard mini of you in your bunny suit. Did that ever go into production, or was that just a
Oh no, it
one-off
was just a
by
nice
her?
thing. Yeah.
Um, I had, of course, the miniatures there at the booth for sale, and I got a miniature of Gauntlet, which is my superhero character from that universe, the character that I played since, the inception of
Yeah.
the game in our home group that was supposed to be me as a superhero. And I gave her one of those. I gave her a
Oh,
gauntlet. So that's the capper. Go, please do go on.
oh, I don't remember what I was saying. It was probably nonsense.
It was the bunny suit that was a hand drawn for you.
Oh
You
no,
still have
no,
it?
no, not that. I would forget what we
Oh,
were talking about. I think it was. Oh, you're saying Florence Henderson, and I was just saying.
no, no, I was saying Florence Henderson, but I meant Jude Lockhart.
Well, I was going to say the Florence
Okay.
Henderson because
Yeah.
she's also supposed to be a great sport
Yes.
and like,
Yes, you said
but
that.
she had done Shakes the Clown,
Oh.
so famously a very play along, like whatever this scene needs, whatever this.
Wasn't she also in Airplane? Was
Uh,
that her
it could be.
saying she could speak jive? Is that her?
Uh, if it's not, the game is now. How many things can we wrongly interpret attribute to Florence Henderson?
Oh God.
It's kind of a fun game. Henderson. Remember we had to remember things. Um,
Oh yeah.
I remember in the 80s sitting out in the heat having to talk through these memories because there was no way to verify anything.
Right.
Airplane, airplane jive. You're right, sir.
Okay.
She in fact spoke jive.
I hope that I've restored some of my dignity by getting that one right.
Yeah, your street cred is safe.
Phew. So anyway, um,
So,
so miniatures.
how do you feel about the weird, wonderful new world of miracles and wonders we live in, where you
Yeah.
have a little robot on your table that you can go to Hero Forge and you can design a guy. You can set
Yeah.
a little robot and it prints it out. How do you feel about that?
Here's how I feel. I feel that I'm paying the monthly fee for an account there, so I can make as many as I want. And I've never bought a single one because I think they're vastly too expensive and not worth it. But I do create the images there and download the still pictures for use on virtual tabletops where you couldn't use plastic minis anyway, and it gives you a way of customizing stuff for, like Roll20 and things.
Yeah, that
That's
functionality.
that is my where I find use for stuff like that. I
Yeah,
like the idea, and when they come down to, not an arm and a leg for a single figure, I may buy one.
yeah. I had a 3D printer for a while, and I have enough friends that have them that if I really need something, all I've got to
Yeah,
buy is the STL, and I've got
right,
the level of membership where you save up credits. So I usually can get a group. By the time I need one again, I've got enough credits to cover, and then they run them off for me. So I'm not paying the like
right.
$3,000 or the hell it is to have
Yeah,
the one.
getting the 3D printing equipment is a hurdle that we've never gotten past.
Well, and it's
Um,
also like my brother has one, but he doesn't have the extra time. They're
uh,
not quite to the point where they're carefree. You have to really
right,
like shepherd them and take care of them and tune them and clean them. And that's like, it's not a plug and play. It's maybe 5 years old.
right,
That. So
right.
you don't see like a direct for you anyway. It's not something you're going to put into use on your table, miniatures wise anyway.
You mean Hero Forge miniatures?
Or the print because there's now a competitor.
Oh, right.
Any of those like, or going on to there's a
I,
market.
I I I totally would.
Hmm,
For me, it's not there yet,
okay,
right?
so it's a
I'm still more in the land of, I've got boxes of Warhammer
mm-hmm,
stuff where they like to make the arms and legs and torsos and heads and shields and things be separate pieces that you glue together. And I kit bash the
yeah,
beans out of that stuff because I have no interest in playing Warhammer particularly.
yeah,
And I was never able to paint large numbers of the same guy for like a military unit because that's for me, it's always been about role playing and that's individuals. So, but but for kit bashing, a unique one-off guy for
yeah.
a purpose, I've done a bunch of that.
Yeah,
And
I had to
so
learn
if I
that.
want to customize miniatures, that's how I do it.
Yeah, you've got a bits box. Yeah,
I tons and tons and tons of bits.
I'm with you on the group army thing, but I did recently play a little Warhammer because Brian, my brother, plays, and
Uh-huh.
so I have an orc army. So for the first time, and orcs, if I had picked an army, I would have picked the one he chose because
Yeah.
it's the guys in the power armor and there's smaller units.
Yeah.
The whole thing about orcs is like Zerg Rush. You want big groups of boys. So I had to sit there with table of like 24 orcs, and I had
Hmm.
to learn what they call the slap chop method. And it's a basing, and then like you do one sourced, you come in with white where the light would be, then you do
Uh,
or then you do like a wash, and
uh,
especially with the some of the current paints, I forget what they're calling them, but there are paints that kind of self shade. So
hmm.
if you do that, you can usually do a group consistently and like good enough for jazz. Like if you hold it like here, it's kind of cute. But if you do this, you're like, ooh. So it's
Yeah.
not for glamour shots, but for an army, it's absolutely fine.
I like painting minis, but I don't have time for it
Yeah,
anymore. Much to speak of. We were just at, do you know about Tea Fest?
I do. In fact, I am interviewing Kenan on
Ah,
for the September 8th show.
so we were just at Tea Fest a couple of weeks ago. For those people at home who don't know, I live in a little town outside of Austin, Texas, and the Tea Fest is a convention that just happened in my hometown.
Yeah,
Literally, like, a 9-minute drive from my house.
yeah.
But it's not the closest convention to my house. That is Library Con, a
Ah,
1 day a year event at the local public library that I can literally walk to.
so I
So,
know that also on the miniatures topic that I was faced with the problem of my brother had a really good job for about 8 years, and he was one of these guys. He's single, no kids, and so he had money. And this is true of like back in the day, like a lot of your engineer programmer friends would be in this.
Hmm.
If they wanted a game, they just bought the game. So when birthdays or Christmas came around, you're like, well, you've got all the stuff because you have more money than I do. So what do I get you? And if you
Right.
the
Sure.
one thing I could, well, you were there. The one thing I could do is I organized a convention for him, and I
Aha.
threw
Yeah.
TinyCon in his apartment, including guests like Jeff. And I remember Amanda ran a paint and take, like at his tiny convention in his apartment.
Uh-huh.
There was a paint.
Uh-huh. She just ran one of those at Tea Fest as well, at our table. And I painted a guy in my spare time at the con.
What were the miniatures?
Various. I think it was just stuff that she had
Cool.
that she volunteered. I painted a cool like caveman shaman with a deer horn headdress that was kind of neat.
Have you ever designed a miniature?
Yes. In fact, in the Living Legends and then third edition V&V, aka Mighty Protectors books, there are some illustrations that were originally um, drawings of figures that we wanted Lance and Laser to make, right? But they're
Yeah,
like drawings of the characters. I clip out the bit where I did a little inset sketch of the back of a guy's head if it had a detail that they needed
yeah.
that the sculptor needed to know. And Sandy Garrity, who was, I don't know if she's still working, but was a big name miniature sculptor back in the day, sculpted a bunch of that stuff. So
There's.
that's cool. Plus, of course, the gauntlet miniature that's supposed to be me, I designed that costume.
Do you know Josh Pop? I want to
No, I don't think so.
make sure I'm getting his name right. Otherwise, is we're gonna have a Florence Henderson.
Not
Yeah, Josh
Josh
Pop.
Gad.
No, no, he is still doing the hand sculpted and hand casting with rubber
Uh-huh.
bands. And sometimes on his Facebook he posts like it's especially in the world we're in now. And I know you and I are both involved in the fight against generative AI and the bull
Eh,
not art that's throwing crap into the
that's not. Yeah.
but so point is proper craft, right, is
Yeah.
I think more valuable and precious than ever. And I'm not
Eh,
against Hero Forge because I did look, and as far as I can tell, all of their stuff is properly sourced, right?
right.
It's not anything that was lifted. They all those parts that you
Right.
put together were all people they hired people to do those.
Hmm.
Um, which I'm saying most of the people listening, I know you know. So you don't have to worry about Hero Forge people. It's fine. Um, which is why what Jeff said is how I also use it often, because I used to be able to go in and if I'm not publishing it, I could borrow a picture. But now it may be something created by a computer that is hurting people I care about. So I don't do that anymore. So if I ever
I hadn't even heard that AI was snaking its evil tentacles into miniatures manufacturing. I'm not surprised, but I hadn't heard that yet.
well, but
Ugh.
so Josh is like certainly a beacon of you post pictures of like here I am doing this. He did every year he does rings for Gary Con.
Hmm.
It's that guy, wonderful guy. But yeah, when I
Oh.
see his workshop, it's always like um, it brings me back to days of Partha, and anything if you ever went there um, and saw any of the rotocasting stuff. It's wonderful stuff, and it's definitely an art and a craft. Like you have to have a very specific set of skills that has an implication now, a very particular set of skills. So Josh
Mm.
is great. Um, okay, so anything we didn't cover in the world of minis?
Since you just brought up a guy still making minis the old-fashioned way, I met a nice fellow um, at T-Fest. His company is Forge of Ice. They're located in Alaska, he hand carves and manufactures in whatever stands in for lead these days. Um, and I'm trying to find his name because it's escaped me. We only met at the con. I'm terrible with names, as I believe I've already demonstrated. But Forge of Ice minis. There, I'll give them a little plug because he was a cool guy and still doing the the old fashioned
Yeah,
way.
Josh is a friend of Kennan's. Like I think
Ah,
he has
uh-huh,
designed some of the minis that then
yeah,
Josh sculpts and puts out.
uh-huh,
So yeah, yeah,
cool.
there's connections there like we planned.
This, I'm sure, I'm sure the guy I'm thinking of, his name is not Josh,
No, no, no. I don't
because
recognize Josh. That up
that
there.
would be embarrassing.
Yeah, there's a con in Alaska I'm trying to get to next year because
Uh-huh.
it's
Oh, well,
small. Yeah, I'm much closer now. I'm 2,000 miles closer to
it's
Alaska.
true. It's a good point. Point.
It's not quite the enterprise it was starting from Central Texas.
So, what did we haven't talked about at all about, people who just object to miniatures on the table. The whole theater of the mind, as if that's a magically special, a different thing. Um, you
Well,
want to talk about those people?
one of those people include me.
So you
Um,
don't like miniatures on the table?
no, hang on.
Okay.
It depends on the group and their focus. So,
Ah,
and this is something that I think comes from my time as a teacher.
uh-huh.
If it's one of those tools that if the group needs help focusing on what you're doing, I think it helps to have now it's battle time, set out your figures.
Hmm.
Other groups, when you do that, it's distraction and all they do is mess with the miniatures. So often with a new group
Oh, well,
I don't know yet, I'll give it a shot and see how the group reacts.
I've got a ruler to wrap on the knuckles of people that mess with the miniatures on the table when they're not supposed to. But I have great sympathy for people who want to make a go of their gaming without miniatures, given, as we've agreed here, right, that it's a gigantic investment in money if you want it, even if you want to have, kind of plausible uh, um, stand-ins for things, right? And it's a lot of work, and the painting it is work, and storing them and then finding where you stored them is a lot of work. It's a huge hassle. I do it because I can, um, but I totally understand that there are people for whom that's just not practical. But I fundamentally disagree with pretty much every argument other than that they come up with for why that's wrong or bad to have miniatures on the table. I mean, the idea, just the phrase theater of the mind rubs me the wrong way, as if as soon as there's miniatures with their bases on a hex grid, therefore I'm not imagining things anymore. Just is ridiculous. Of course, it's all still happening in the imagination. The uh, miniatures are a way of communicating shared information so everybody's on the same page. And they're not the only way you could do that, but they're a very practical way of doing that. Um, and I think rejecting that on some kind of made up, well, you're not really being imaginative if you're not you're losing all kinds of creative freedom if you have things on the tabletop. You know what you're losing the freedom to do, frankly? Losing the freedom to have arguments about where the fuck things are. That's what you're losing. And I think
So,
that there are some people out there that want to have that freedom to just argue about where things are and have their force of will at the table determine whether things go their way.
so as
And
usual,
but I don't think that's most of them.
we disagree.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
Oh, as usual.
I think we often disagree, but we're very good at disagreeing with each other. Comes
Uh-huh.
with mutual respect. I don't think it's ever
Yeah. Yeah.
Jane ignorant dash. It's why, okay, here's my point of view on it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think, because you're right, like having some stuff on the table sometimes.
I love that you disagree with me and begin by saying that I'm right. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the people that would talk to you and teach classes about argument would tell you to do that, right? If
Oh, well,
you're establishing commonality, then you
uh-huh.
know where you
Yeah,
diverge
all right.
that common
That's
point, right?
that's fair.
Okay.
That's fair.
So where I divert, I'll get right to it, is yes, you set down, so the thing where we do agree, you set down some miniatures and then you can
Yeah.
see the stage is over there and they're on a
Yeah.
visor and you can look
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that sets
Yeah.
the brain ablaze and your inner picture is fired by the relation of those things. You can interact with it better. And then the spatial relationships are the same for you and for Karen and for Bell. I get that. However, um, I think maybe also the phrase theater of the mind. I might say, because I get your objection, I don't agree with it, but I get it. I might say stage of the mind, um, because it's a question of is your staging area out here or is it here? And you obviously have had many issues where having it here creates arguments and having it here is senseless because if you can have it here, you can all look at it. My experience is the arguments happen the other way. For example, in D&D, the 5 foot step, once you have it out here, and it matters exactly where your facing is and whether you're 5 feet from people,
Hmm.
you end up with a lot of needing to measure. You end up with a lot of exactly where it is. I find that leads to a lot of arguments. However, usually when I'm playing staging in the mind, um, what I do is if we don't know exactly, say you're going to fireball some incoming hobgoblins. If you've got this, you would take your template. Like modern players usually have a transparent template, and you go bump, and you see which are in the template, and you're good to go. However, you've had to move all of those and make sure they're in the right place and whatever. If I'm doing a staging in the mind kind of a thing, and I say, here come the hobgoblins, and you like fireball, and your obvious question is, how many can I get within the radius of the fireball?
Uh-huh.
Typically, what I'll do is I'll have you make a fate roll. So sometimes, depending on the group I'm playing with, we use fate dice, which, for those of you who don't know, are dice that have three minuses, three pluses, and three blanks. You roll four of them, which gives you an aggregate -4 to +4, which gives you like really unfortunate or really good. Or I have them roll a d12, and then high is good for the party, low is bad for the party. So when I have to abstract like that in that situation, I just say, here come the hobgoblins, throw that d12 for me. And then if it's central, I'll give them kind of half the group. If they roll high, I give them the whole group. And one of the best rules, well, well, let me be careful about what I'm saying. In my opinion, one of the most effective rules for play going smooth is one of the editions of Warhammer 40K, and I think some of the other books had a rule that if you start arguing a mechanic, you're supposed to roll, and it's literally a 50-50. It's like a coin flip. So the rule was essentially a get on with it rule, where if we started to argue whether that ability came into play, you'd invoke that rule and you'd flip. That, especially at a table like Warhammer, where people wanna often argue those rules and win by having the better rules interpretation, it moves things along. That fate roll that abstracts, I find to be a laxative for not having to worry about this, and I think that the difference might be whether the GM is interested in strategic play and really knowing where people are and taking advantage of that, or if the GM is a little more narrativist and isn't interested in the strategic play. Does that make sense?
We'll have to have a whole other, maybe you can have me back sometime to have a whole knockdown drag out about narrativist, which
I,
I have zero use for, zero whatsoever, and it bugs me that that this viewpoint has spread out so far through the hobby. But uh you know you in your example of the fireball into the group of whatever ogres or whatever it was you said
Yeah,
they were, um that's not new. um Early on, I mean, in tabletop uh mass combat games,
yeah,
there's it's common to have, like, well, here's a unit of guys coming at you, and you roll the dice and find out how many individual little miniature stands you
yeah,
take off the unit tray because of the explosive that went off in the middle.
yeah,
And what that does is abstracting that removes from the players the opportunity to do clever things that would get better results. And that's what I dislike. I don't want, if I see that they're more tightly packed over to the right than they are to the left, I want to be able to toss my fireball over there. And if I can't see where they are, I can't even begin to have those insights. Now, you mentioned, strategic play. Um, I've I've participated in the SCA
hmm,
and like mass combat things. You know what your thinking is like when you're out there with a weapon in a crowd doing stuff? It's very fucking strategic.
sure.
And that's one of the things that bugs me about the narrativist approach, is it's denigration of thinking that actually would put you more in the mind of your character if you could just do it, and taking away, abstracting to the point where the player doesn't even get a chance to see the scene from their character's perspective and to make the smart moves from the character's perspective. That just bugs me. I think
Yeah,
that's
so I,
that is baby and bathwater
I
situation.
think you made an excellent point there, and I do think that everything is a spectrum, right? Like everything. And I think at the far end,
Sure.
something I say often in play is, if this was a LARP, this would be easy, because there's things about certain kinds of timing, especially in things like multiple people with multiple NPCs in a conversation.
Mhm.
Finding a way to get that right at a tabletop, as opposed to like you, me,
Right.
Mitch,
With
Bry, Bill, and Karen are all in a room playing.
right. And one
And
GM being the voices of everybody else.
yeah, there are times
Right.
when,
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
end is like what you're saying. You can see it, you can plan, you can. So all the way on the right is you've got plausibility. Like, I never say realism because it's never realistic, so it's nonsense. So you have plausibility pushed to the max over here, and that's effectively a LARP, which is giant miniatures, which are you. And then all the way down here are the guys that say things like theater of the mind, where
Yeah.
everything is like, just, there are even people that drop off the mechanics and they go with narrative resolution systems. Um, I fall, you know, 70% over here. Um,
Mhm.
and so I agree that the miniatures help, that provide that focus and help. I do maybe disagree that, like, in your counter example to my example,
Yeah.
I would say the people that I know use that, like my solution of the fate roll to give you abstraction.
Mhm.
My players, knowing that, would, when they set up the scene and saw them incoming, would say something like, okay, we're going to get our caster to an advantageous position. So we want to make sure to get as many of those as possible. In fact, what we'll do is we'll send someone out to distract, and we'll call them, which will make them all run one direction, and they'll usually pull together because it's a narrow space. Like, they'll interact with it, but they'll interact with it for fear of trigger you further. They'll interact with it narratively rather
Yeah.
than on the board with tactical rules.
Right.
Ultimately, I think the reason I choose the style that I choose is I don't enjoy pushing lead. Like, I just don't find it fun, you know?
Okay. And I don't and I I said my grumpy thing about narrative style play.
Yeah.
I of course don't mind that there are games out there for people who are more interested in that kind of a game. There should be games for people who are interested in all kinds of different things. What I mind is that it's been like 12 years since I've gone into a game store and picked up a new RPG and not been hit in the face with its, big narrative mechanic that it has on, instead of, give me a solid set of rules. And I also I am aware of the downside of mechanics.
Right.
They can very easily spiral out of control. I mean, first edition AD&D is a tremendous example of, three books full of 800 bazillion nitpicky, unconnected Frankenstein monster rules, right? That's not a good way to build a system
Yeah.
of mechanics. It is better to have as small and powerful a set of mechanics as you can that, in my opinion, right, if that's what you're after, if that's the play style you want, as small and powerful a set of mechanics as you can get to generate or simulate the bits and bobs that you're going to care about in trying to accomplish things and no more, right?
I'm
So like I
I'm 100% with you. I'm on team mechanics. It's a
okay,
role playing game. I
yeah,
want it to be a game. In case this is not perfectly clear to people listening, I'm not going to speak for Jeff, but I firmly believe there is no one true path for role playing. You want to play Honey
yeah.
Heist and you want to use one mechanic and you're a bear trying to get honey, God's bless you, or absence of God's show fortune on you.
Yeah, no, there's that. It's not a question of there being only one true way. It's about the way that I like
Sure.
being squeezed out of existence
Yeah.
by a fad for a different way, and that irritates me.
Yeah.
It is the only reason I complain.
There's a
I
few
think there should be that, it's one thing to say there should be room for all styles of play, and it's another thing to actually leave room for those styles of play.
I'm with you. And there's a few games that have come out, and I'm not going to remember them right now, but I'll email with you. There's been a few that have been more chewy, that have
Mhm,
had more crunch. I tried to strike a balance. I'll make sure that you have a current copy of Nuked because I
mhm,
think the balance I struck between there should be enough crunch that your chain sword feels different than my wand and that we should be able to interact with that was tricky because I wanted to keep it simple.
mhm,
But I think I hit that. But to go back to miniatures, all this does then kind of ground out on what kind of things do you use as tools to play your game. And
mhm.
I'm currently using almost entirely proxies. I use magnetic counters with icons. So you can like, oh,
Sure.
my character will be the gear, you know?
That's fun. When Manda and I were designing Cave Master,
Yeah.
uh, we literally used rocks for the miniatures. Walking the dog became an exercise in, we're going to need tonight a rock that would be a good stand-in for a cave bear, right? And you just scan the ground as you walk. Oh, well, hold on a second, puppy, and pick that up. Like, nah, not that one. Um, and we have a playground at the end of our street where it had gravel,
Yeah,
and Amanda and I spent many an hour down there going through the gravel. This wasn't miniatures, but related, right?
it is.
The
Yeah.
Cave Master has its handful of rocks mechanic for resolution of things, and but we made many little for our backers little leather pouches with hand picked selections of rocks for their uh, their stones for the game.
Well, and
Um,
that's one of the reasons I made sure to include Cave Master up front is
mm,
I did want to get to this point, which is I absolutely consider those little rocks and also watching y'all play Cave Master and
yeah,
seeing you treat them exactly like they were little lead miniatures. And it's like, yeah, that's this guy is obviously a
yeah,
primordial bear, like boom.
sure, sure.
um, so I mean, part of that is like whatever you use, if you're going to use miniatures, and I think I use them when I feel they're called for, and I think Jeff used them always. Yes.
Um, not if if one player is an assassin on a rooftop and there's one
Mhm.
target down in the street, you don't need to set up a tabletop for that. Tell him how far away is that guy, and does he have any idea that you're about to shoot him? Right? I mean that you can do in your head without worrying about any important details being overlooked, um, for the most part.
So I think.
And you know, and I have also got a mechanic that I use for um, to resolve uncertainty.
Mhm.
I have a luck mechanic in the latest edition of Villains and Vigilantes, but it is not like in narrative games where narrative control is handed over to players so they can make things be a certain way
Yeah.
for their characters from outside the bounds of their characters' abilities. It is for the poor game master who is constantly being asked questions about things they may not have made any decisions about. And somebody says, is there a rock on the ground near my feet that I can pick up and throw at that guy? Well, I don't know. What are the odds? Does your character have a special luck ability that they are luckier than most people? Factor that in, and then you roll the dice, and there is or there isn't.
Yeah.
I'm okay with stuff like that. It's the but that's a whole other conversation. The whole uh being old timey role playing school of being your character and affecting the world through your character's abilities versus being a writer and writing stories about your character together. Those are different kinds of games, which is
Different forms of
fine.
agency, and I think we're on the same side
Let's
there.
let's not go there now. Are we?
So
Yeah,
I was doing the wrap up thesis statement, which
do
was
that then. I'll
uh,
stop derailing.
considering no, it's
Oh, it's
okay.
been fun.
Florence loves you. I think that as I was saying, like I use them when I think it's appropriate, and for Jeff, I think it's usually appropriate. But whatever you use, just bear in mind it can be cutouts. You can find them online.
Yeah.
There's stuff on RPG now that's very inexpensive. I work with a guy named David Oakham, Oakham Arts. Um, you guys have some up, right? Some
Paper minis?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, print and play,
Yeah.
right?
Technical stuff
Yeah, yeah.
primarily.
So that those are available. I've used literally cookies, and if something gets
Sure.
killed, you eat it. You get a lot of play out of Barnum's Animals. Uh, I've used Legos.
Yeah. Yeah. You've wanted to talk about the whole proxies thing, and I haven't really said much about that, except that, just to be clear, I am okay with proxies. You like to have things that look like what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah,
It's more evocative. And I like the spectacle, particularly at conventions. I would steer away from proxies because I run games at conventions as a marketing tool for my products, right? And I want people who wander by the table to get a sense of what it's all about. And if they see some cookies duking it out, it's not going to make the point quite the same. But at the table at my house for my group, it's anything that has to go is going to go.
anything that'll show you a relative position, give you a sense of
Yeah,
what's going
yeah,
on.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
I've never resolved. I've never like put butane on the table and made a fireball. I've never not got to that level. But yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. So I think we have said damn near everything that can be said.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
uh, if you have anything else on miniatures,
No, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop now.
okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and probably
You're
have you at
welcome.
some point to
I'm
talk
I'm
about
honored to be here. What's the
your
name of your show?
table talk,
Table Talk. Uh-huh.
like talking games
Cool.
to the gaming table.
Sure, sure. Uh
You're our
doesn't
second guest now.
isn't that a thing? There's a there's an Adam Ant song, Table Talk, isn't
Uh,
it?
God, I hope so.
But it's about something else. I'll have to look it up.
Oh, it's
Right,
probably
cool.
if it's adamant, it's probably about kinky sex and trust.
Probably.
Yeah, which did not take place here. But All right, so maybe we'll have you back and talk about narrativists versus simulationists and all that that implies.
Cool beans. Well, we're good. I'll look forward to that.
All right, take care, and
Thanks, Mike.
everyone have an amazing day.
Bye, everybody.